Welcome to CSEC Biology, the cover page. I am Mr. Wilson, and today we're going to be looking at the CSEC Human and Social Biology paper 2017 multiple choice paper. That is, if you have not yet like, share, and subscribe, please ensure that you do so now. If your views are different than those presented here, we do ask that you respectfully leave them in the comment below. Question number 1. The process by which living organisms get energy from their food is called respiration. Question number 2. Which of the following is not a function of the cell membrane? Here we had to look closely at B and D. Eventually we chose B. Keeps the cell content in correct proportion. We think that that's a responsibility of the nucleus. 3. During osmosis, the movement of water molecule through the semi-permeable membrane continues until, this is of course a repeat question, and we chose B, not A, though A is the easy choice for most persons. If we were supposed to choose A, then it would mean that a lot of cells would rupture as they would try to satisfy the amount of water on the outside to ensure that it equals the amount of water on the inside. So for that reason, we chose B and not A. Moving on to question number 4, and this too is a repeated question. It refers to the following diagram which show the red blood cell before and after being placed in a concentrated salt solution for 1 hour. So there we have the cell in 2 after 1 hour, losing some water there. The change in the blood cell shown in 2 occurs because water leaves the cell by osmosis. Water is moving, it's going to be osmosis there. Item number 5 refers to the following aquatic food chain. This is of course a repeated question. We have the phytoplankton, zooplankton, fish, and water bird. The producer in the food chain is of course the phytoplankton, which is of course a aquatic plant, or one might say a microscopic plant. 6. Which of the following food would best prevent constipation? This is again is a repeated question, and it's going to be fruit and vegetable salad, being that we need that fiber in the diet, the roughage in the diet, in order to prevent constipation. And we move on down to question number 7. Which of the following reagent gives a positive test for the main food present in a slice of baked potato? This is a repeated question. Iodine is going to be as we're testing for starch. And we move on down to question number 8. Which of the following vitamins can be produced by the skin as well as obtained from food? That's going to be vitamin D, and this too is a repeated question. Question number 9. Item 9 refers to the following diagram which shows the structure of a typical tooth. This is a repeated question. The tooth there nicely labeled. Which of the part labeled A, B, C, or D supplies the tooth with food? That is going to be C, the pulp cavity. That's where we're going to be finding the blood vessels that is going to be supplying the teeth with that food energy that it requires to stay alive. Question number 10. Which of the following teeth aid in grinding food into smaller pieces? That's going to be the molar and premolar, and that's going to be textbook. So we'll move on to question number 11. Which of the following graph best describe the effect of pH on the activity of enzymes, saliva enzyme, in the digestive process? This one was very easy to do. So we're looking at the salivary enzyme. That one is found in the mouth, and it is acting on starch, and it acts somewhere between 7 and 8, pretty much almost neutral pH. So A is going to be your answer there. These graphs are really nicely laid out. And we move on to question number 12, which is again a repeated question. Refers to the following diagram of part of the human digestive system. There we have it nicely labeled, 1 being the liver, 2 being the stomach, then we have the pancreas there, and 3 being the small intestine. Now gastric juice is secreted, of course, by the stomach. Bile is, of course, secreted by the liver, and of course will be secreted made in the liver. So what we want to find out here, let us look at that very quickly. Which sequence correctly match the numbered structure to their function? So we chose C for 12, and it is nicely laid out there as is in the table. So C for question number 12. 13. The process by which undigested food is eliminated from the body is called egestion. Of course, we're looking at feces here. This is a repeated question. It's, of course, undigested food, and it is eliminated from the body by the process of egestion, not excretion. For excretion, it would have had to gone through metabolic waste, and this has not gone through metabolic waste. So, of course, 13 is going to be A. For 14, amino acid, which is produced as a result of digestion, are not used to make carbohydrate. They are, of course, converted into fat, and that is why we said that, of course, insulation, fat would insulate the body. Only, of course, in real extreme case where it is needed, it is made into carbohydrate. So as such, the best answer here for not for us would have been C, to make carbohydrate. If your views are different, please leave it in the comment below. And we move on down to question number 15. Item refers to the following table, which shows the function of some structures of a respiratory system, and this is again a repeated question. We're looking at one there representing the nostril, all right, or the nasal passage, and 2 there seems to represent the 2 prevents food from entering the trachea. That's going to be the epiglottis, and 3 provides air passage to the lungs. It's going to be the bronchus, trachea, or one of those. And there we have the voice box being the larynx. So we selected C for the answer, where 1 is, of course, going to be the nasal passage, 2 being the epiglottis, 3 being the bronchus, and of course 4 being the larynx. So for question number 15, it's going to be C. We move on down to question number 16. All right, during a sprint, muscle in the human body produces lactic acid by the process of anaerobic respiration. No oxygen is required, and when lactic acid is produced, it's usually in the muscle cell, and it causes some amount of fatigue and could, of course, cause the athlete to collapse if not remedied early. Then you have that oxygen debt to repay. Question number 17. Another repeated question here. The delivery of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, the following steps should be taken, and our answer here is going to be D. And you'd observe for 4, you're going to place the casualty on the back, press the head back with the hand, and push jaw upward with the other. After which you are going to pinch the nose and seal the mouth with the casualty mouth. So that's your mouth with the casualty mouth. And then the last thing for you, give 4 quick blows into the casualty mouth and repeat every 5 seconds. So for 17 there, it's going to be D. We'll move on down to question number 18, which again is another repeated question. Refers to the following graph: the number of cigarettes smoked per day, and we selected A for this answer. We've seen this question a couple of times. A for question number 18. The number of cigarettes smoked per day increases the risk of getting lung cancer. Alright, so the risk of lung cancer will increase if you increase the number of cigarettes based on what the graph is showing. We move on over to question number 19. Now question number 19 is looking at the heart, and it reads: item 19 refers to the following diagram of a vertical section through a human heart. So there we have it nicely, number 1 being the pulmonary artery, and number 2 moving on to the aorta, number 3 pulmonary vein, and of course number 4 being the left ventricle. So let's move on down to see what's happening here. Which of the following part is taken by blood leaving the right ventricle? Now this is very, very important here. This diagram is a repeat diagram, you might recall. So we selected B for question number 19. It's going to go to pulmonary artery, then it's going to go to pulmonary vein. Of course, it's going to come into the left ventricle, and then it's going to leave via the aorta to the body. So for 19, again, it's going to be a B for your answer. For 20, capillaries have very thin wall which have only one layer of cell. This is to allow rapid diffusion of gases and glucose. So we selected A for our answer for question 20. Moving on to question number 21. It refers to the following incomplete table which shows blood vessel supplying some organ. This is another repeated question. So here we go. Which of the following correctly label 1, 2, 3, 4? So if it is to the lungs, it's going to be the pulmonary artery, as we have seen in the art above. And then when we get down to the hepatic artery, that is going to be associated with the liver. And over to 3 there, the intestine is always going to be the mesenteric artery, and renal, patient renal has to do with the renal clinic. So for 21, it's going to be B. For 22, coronary thrombosis occurs when a coronary artery becomes blocked but with a blood clot. That one was pretty easy, I think. It is textbook as well. 23, which of the following vitamin assists in the process of blood clotting? A repeated question. That's going to be D for 23. 24 is also a repeated question. Item 24 refers to the following diagram of part of the human skeleton. Which of the following combination correctly identifies a bone labeled X? That's going to be X, Y, Z. It's going to be there. We have the femur, then we have the tibia, and then we have the fibia. So we selected B. All right. So we move on from B for 24 to 25, and 25 wants us to identify which of the following diagram represent the pelvic girdle, and that's going to be B, and that is of course a repeated question. And we move over to question 26. Refers to the following diagram of the human arm, and you would observe that this too is a repeated question. Which of the following occurs when the arm is bent, and the arm being bent or flexed? That's the palm coming closer to the chest. And of course your answer here is going to be A for 26. The bicep pulls on the radius. Some books might even say the bicep pulls on the radius and ulna. Moving on to question number 27. Which group best represents the location of a ball and socket, hinge and fixed joint? Somewhat changed, but pretty much brings out the same concept to it. The answer here is going to be C, shoulder, elbow, and of course cranium. Fixed joints are joints that cannot be moved. Then we move on to question 28 to 29, and it refers to the following simplified diagram of the kidney tubule. So over here we are going to have the afferent, and over here we are going to have the efferent, and this is of course a repeated question. So we know that blood is entering from this side. If you observe here, it is much larger than it is here. So it is the larger vessel that is taking the blood to this area, right, and the smaller taking it away. What it wants us to find out here, in answering item 28 to 29, each labeled part may be used once, more than once, or not at all. Which labeled part collect filtrate from the glomerulus? That's going to be B, this looped area here. All right, the Bowman capsule, and this of course is going to be the proximal tubule. And we move on down 29. Which labeled part brings blood to the glomerulus? All right, we showed you earlier, it's going to be A, the afferent arteriole. Showed you that just now. System moving a bit slow. So here we go. Blood is entering there. All right, so it's going to be A. Moving on down to 30, which of the following occurs when blood sugar level rises above normal? You're going to have insulin secretion increase. So D is going to be your answer for 30. Moving on to 31. Thirty-one refers to the following diagram of the human brain: the cerebrum, we have the hypothalamus, the cerebellum, and the medulla oblongata. 31. Which part of the brain is responsible for conscious thought? That's going to be the cerebrum. Your answer here is going to be A. Question 32. Which of the following is an involuntary action? That's going to be breathing, pretty much like it is for the heart beating. Of course, it's under no conscious thought from you. It happens without you even knowing. Moving on to question 33. Which of the following occurs to bring about accommodation in the eye? This is also a repeated question. I mean, this paper seems to be one that repeats. All right, so A here is going to be tightening of the suspensory ligament through relaxation of the ciliary muscle. So the answer here for 33 is going to be A. Moving on to question 34. And we have the ovaries. Our test is not sure which one is represented there. Which hormone is secreted by the organ labeled S? That's going to be insulin, and it is used to, of course, control blood sugar. So we move on over to question number 35. And question 35 wants to find out the role of the luteinizing hormone, and that is to control ovulation and form the corpus luteum. So A is going to be the answer for 35. Moving on down to 36. Which of the following comparison is not true for the nervous and hormonal control? Not true. Message travels slowly. No, the message travels really fast in the nervous system. Message travel fast. No, it travels slow for hormonal control. So your answer here for 36 is going to be D. Moving on to 37. 37 refers to the following diagram, which represents a front view of a male reproductive system. 1 there being the sperm duct, 4 there being the seminal vesicle, and of course 3 there being the prostate gland thra. Don't get all confused with ureter and urethra. An easy way to remember is the one with least letter. Ureter comes first and then urethra comes after. Our answer here for 37 is going to be C. Moving on to 38. Which of the following refers to the following diagram, which show the human spermatozoa? Which labeled part contains the mitochondria? That, of course, is going to be B. So B contains the mitochondria there. You have the acrosome at D and the nucleus at C. We're moving on to 39. 39 refers to the following graph, which shows the level of estrogen during the menstrual cycle. You're looking at the level there being increased. The estrogen level is highest during ovulation, and pretty much the answer here is A. All right, so we move on to 40. Which of the following contraceptive method prevents the egg from being implanted in the uterus? Of course, prevent it from being implanted is going to be an intrauterine device that won't allow the eggs to be implanted in the uterus. Then we have 41. Ovulation is a process by which a mature egg is released into the oviduct. So D the answer there for 41. For 42, in a multicellular organism, whenever cells need to be replaced, cell divide by mitosis. That is if you got a cut and you need new cells there to have it all heal. That is done by mitosis. So your answer for 42 is going to be C. For 43, chromosomes are made up of protein and DNA. Alright, so your answer here is going to be A for 43. And we move on down to 44. Which of the following is an example of genetic engineering? Alright, so D is your answer here for 44. If you have not yet like, share, or subscribe, please do so now. And when you subscribe, remember to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified whenever there is a new post. Question 45. Which of the following cannot be prevented by healthy lifestyle activity? That's going to be sickle cell. It's inherited, so your answer here for 45 is going to be B. Moving on to question 46. SEMA has the following signs and symptoms: constriction of a bronchial tube, coughing, and wheezing. She is most likely suffering from asthma is the answer there, A. Moving on to question 47. Very interesting question here. Question 47. Question 47. Hypertension does not occur as a result of anemia. All the others are ways in which hypertension would occur. Alright, 48. So your answer for 47 is going to be B. 48, your answer. Which of the following statement about herpes is true? It's a virus. There is no complete cure for herpes. So C is your answer there for 48. Now we're going to be moving on to 49. Which of the following symptoms causes the most injury to a person suffering from dengue fever? It's going to be the hemorrhaging of course, internal organ, the bleeding of internal organ. That can really lead to some serious trouble. So your answer here for 49 is going to be D. Question 50. In order to purify water from a well for drinking, it is best to boil it at 100 degrees Celsius. So your answer for 50 is going to be B. For question 51, it refers to the following diagram showing the life cycle of the housefly. And of course, which stage is prevented by keeping household refuse properly covered? Of course, the flies will not be able to lay. They have no way to lay. So of course, egg, it's going to be, so B is going to be your answer. For 52, what type of immunity is acquired when antibodies are produced when a vaccine is administered? That is going to be artificial, active, acquired. Alright? So, of course, it is administered, artificial and acquired. Active, it's going to be developed. The antibodies will form in you that makes it active. So for 52, your answer there is going to be A. For 53, it refers to the following graph, and we're looking at rat population and leptospirosis cases. Alright, what inference can be drawn from the graph above? Rat may cause leptospirosis in humans. So D the answer there for 53. 54. Water pollution could be controlled by public education and law. The best answer here, A for 54. Moving on down to 55. The process by which water vapor changes to water is known as condensation. We move on over to 56. Moving pretty fast here. Please be reminded to view the other past papers we have put out. We have there 2015, 2019, 2000. 56. Chlorine bleach can be added to drinking water to destroy microorganisms. These are your answer for 56. 57. Which of the following is the correct sequence in testing water for bacteria? We chose C, which is going to be place collected water in a sterilized bottle. 4. Pour water onto sterile agar. in a sterile petri dish. Incubate it, that's eat it, for about 35 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. Don't want it to go over 35 degrees Celsius. And then you are going to be examining the agar in the petri dish for the presence of coliform. Alright, so your answer for 57 is going to be C. For 58, which of the following are effects of releasing untreated sewage into river and lakes? Your answer here is going to be D. All the above are going to be, of course, effects of releasing sewage into a lake. 58, D is your answer. Move on to 59. Which of the following gases is produced in landfill site? Of course, that is going to be methane, anaerobic respiration producing methane, and of course the type of gas that will of course start a fire on the landfill if the day is extremely hot and there is no vent pipe, or the landfill is not properly modified to prevent this fire. 60. A substance is biodegradable if it can be broken down by bacteria to harmless materials. A is your answer here for question number 60. Now that takes us to the end of this past paper, 2017 it was, Human and Social Biology. If you have not yet liked, share, or subscribe, please do so now. When you do subscribe, remember to hit that notification bell and select all, so you will be notified as soon as there is a new publication. Please visit the channel to enjoy other videos and other shows that are pertinent to your interests. Thanks much for watching.